What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today we're going to learn about 10 essential Linux terminal tools and commands that every Linux user should know. So let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to cover 10 essential Linux terminal tools and commands. And all of these commands are going to be very basic and very essential. They're not going to be some fancy tools that are specific to a certain industry or to a certain category of use cases. There are system level tools and networking tools and very basic tools that you will need all the time on Linux, or that at least you can benefit from using all the time on Linux. So let's get right into it. We're going to open up the terminal, and most of these tools are probably already pre-installed on your system. If not, just use your package manager to install them. Again, they're not any fancy tools. They're very mainstream and very basic. The first one is PS. Now, PS is basically a tool that allows us to see which processes are running, and in particular, you can run the command ps aux like this, and you will get a list of the processes. Now, one thing that I want to mention here right away is that you can use the tool, the terminal tool TLDR. This is something that you will need to install in order to see how to use all of these tools. So all you have to do is you have to say TLDR PS, and it's going to give you a list of example commands. This is very similar to reading the man pages, but the difference is that it's very concise and you don't have to read through all the stuff that you don't need here. So you can see ps aux lists all the running processes, and then you have other commands here. Now, this command, I usually combine it with a grep. Now, grep is a tool that will not be covered in this video today because it's so basic that probably all of you guys that are using Linux know already. Grep basically takes something and greps the output from it. So I don't know if that's why it's called grep, but it basically extracts the line where the certain string, where the given string occurs. So ps aux lists all the processes. Then we can use the pipe symbol, and we can say grep and then some term. So for example, I don't know if I have some Python running here, in this case, yes. And you can see I have Python running. So all the processes that are running Python here are listed with the respective process ID. So this is the number that you would want to target, or that you want to specify if you want to target the process. Which brings us to the next thing. I can actually go ahead and maybe just create a file here, testrunner.py. Let's just import time, and then say while true time sleep 1, like this. And then Python 3 testrunner. So now this is running, and what I can do now is I can try to find this, maybe even by just typing testrunner. There you go. You can see there's the process testrunner. We're not interested in the grep process, we're interested in the Python process. So this is the PID, and this brings us now to the next tool, or to the next command, which is the kill command. The kill command basically kills a process. So I can just say kill and then 66746, and this, as you can see, kills the process. I can run it again, and then of course I have to run this again to get the new process ID, but I can then also send different signals. So I can say kill and then dash sick int for sick interrupt, for example, 67125. And then you will see I get a keyboard interrupt here. And I can do the same thing with sick term. Oh, actually I need to get the number again. I can do the same thing with sick term, and I should be able to do the same thing with sick kill as well. So let's see, sick kill, and we have 823. There you go, killed. We can see the different messages here, and the default is terminate. So that's also a tool that's very useful here. Now, what else can we do? Some basic system stuff. Those are now the first two tools. Then we also have a basic tool called uname. Uname basically gives you information about the operating system that you're running and also the kernel. Now, just uname tells me that I'm running Linux. Okay, I know that. But if I want to see all the possible information, all the available information, I can just say uname-a, and I can get all the information that this tool can provide. Now, maybe this is too much, so you are only interested in the specific version of the kernel. What you can do in this case is uname dash, or actually dash kernel dash version. Then you can see that this is the version of the kernel. It's also contained in here, but that is the specific thing that I can query here. If I'm not interested in the software aspect, but I want to know what my hardware is, I can use the command or the tool lshw. I think this stands for list hardware. And this gives me a lot of information that seems very confusing. So what I can also do is I can say lshw-short to get a simple overview of my hardware. First of all, where it is, so which device it is, but also the description and the class. So I can just see what's running or what's inside of my system here. I can also filter. I can say lshw, and then I can say dash class disk, or maybe also dash class storage, and then I can just say short again, and then I would only get my hard drives basically and the storage. Yeah, so I can also do the same thing with network. So if I want to get my network interfaces on a hardware level, I can just say network, and then I get my Ethernet and my wireless port or adapter. All right, so related to networking, we also have the tool netstat. Netstat basically shows the connections, and you can also use TLDR here to see what netstat can do. And basically what you can do with netstat is you can see, and this is what I use it for, the command that I actually want to highlight here is that you can actually see which port is used by which application. So for example, I can go ahead and say netstat, and then I have to specify the tag TULNP, and then I can grab from here, I don't know if something with Python is running, but yeah, you can see all these ports here are used by processes that are based on Python 3. I can also just do this in general, and then you can see all the different ports being used here by different applications. So this is what you can do with this command. This is something very useful because sometimes it tells me, okay, the port is already being used and I don't know what is using that port, which application is using that port. So I can just use netstat with this flag here and then grab to get a specific port number is also what I can do. So I don't have to grab the application name. I can also say I want to have a port number, and then I can see, okay, in this case it's let's pick a different one. Let's go with 49017, and then you can see it's Python running on there. And then of course I can try to see what the process ID is, and I can kill the process and so on. All right. In addition to that, what I can also do is I can use a tool called ifconfig, which basically gives me information about networking aspects. I can see here my IPv4 address, my private one, for the different adapters. Of course, you have also interfaces for Docker and for for VirtualBox and your Ethernet and your wireless adapter and so on. But what you can do is, first of all, you can get some more information. So you can say -8 to get more details, even though I think in this case didn't really change anything. But what you can also do is you can turn on and off certain interfaces. Now, I'm not going to do that here, but what you can do is you can say ifconfig, and then you can pick an interface, for example, my Ethernet here, ENP, EMP5S0, and then I can say up or down to turn it on or off. Now, right now it's turned on. I can say down to turn it off. Then, of course, my internet will no longer work. If I say up again, it's going to restart it, basically. Yeah, so that's also a nice tool that I use on a regular basis. What else can we do? We can use a tool called, or actually not a tool maybe, it's a command called service. And service, basically, as the name already suggests, gives us information about the services running on the system. So one thing that I can easily do is I can say service --status -all, and I can see all the different services that are on my system, and I can see whether they're turned on or off. And for example, we can see VeraCrypt is turned off. So what I could do is I could say service, and then I can specify VeraCrypt start. And this would, of course, after I enter my password here, this will, of course, start the service. I can also use status to see if the service is running. And then I can just do stop. I can also do restart and reload, by the way. And then you can see the service is inactive before it was active. All right, so this is just a nice thing that you probably have to use on a regular basis if you want to start and stop services that are not, automatically started and stopped. Or if you want to restart a service, this is a nice command or a very useful command. Then we also have a different kind of tool, which is df. Now, df basically, if you use TLDR, maybe you can see what its name is. I think, okay, the name is not specified, but I think it just gives us information about the space on the disk, which is free. So I think maybe this is something like disk free or yeah, something like that. And basically, it displays us all the it displays for us all the file systems and the disk usage. So if I just type df, you can see I get all the different file systems, and I can see how much space is available, how much is used in absolute numbers, how much percentage that is, or what the percentage is there, and where these file systems are mounted. So that is a very nice information. I can also do the same thing for a directory. So if I want to say df and then maybe something like home, neural 9, documents, programming, then it tells me that this is actually on SDA3, it's mounted on root, and this is the whole disk usage of this particular file system. Not of the directory itself, but the directory is in a file system, and this is the one that we're talking about here. Basically this one. Yeah, and then I think, yeah, it says that here as well. We can also display statistics, so I can say df-i, and yeah, this gives us some more information here based on the inodes, or focusing on the inodes. Yeah, so finally then we have, or actually not finally, we have two more things here. We have two more commands. One of them I actually showed in a video already, which is the watch command. Now, watch basically reruns the same command every 2 seconds by default. You can also specify a different time, and this can be useful to monitor certain things. So let's say, for example, I go to my desktop and I create a directory, test environment or something like that. I go into that directory, and here I, let's say, create a file, touch1txt or something. Then the ls will output that file. And if I have a second file, 2txt, then I will get these files, where I can also do ll to get them in this view here. Now, let's say I want to monitor this and I want to see what's happening here in somewhat real time. Now, what I could do here is I could run a watch command. I could say watch, and then I could specify the command, which in this case would be ll. What's the problem here? Or do I have to say ls? Okay, ls. So I have 1txt, 2txt. You can see it's being run every 2 seconds. So if I go to my desktop and I navigate to test environment and I create a new file here, touch3.txt, this is going to be shown here. You can see it updates that all the time, every 2 seconds. This can now be done with different commands. So I can do the same thing with a specific file. I can say watch cat and then 1txt, which is the content of the file 1txt. So I can go into 1txt and I can say hello world, and then I can save that, and you can see it already updates that here. But of course, if I don't want to do this every 2 seconds, I can also do it every 60 seconds. So I can say watch-n60 and then cat 1txt. You can see every 60 seconds now. And also, I think this is also listed in TLDR. Yeah, this is basically, you can provide the -d flag to also highlight the differences as they happen. But for me, this yeah, didn't look very well, so I'm not going to do that here. So I mean, I can show it to you. Let's do watch cat, or actually watch-d cat 1.txt. Then I can go to the other terminal here. And if I change this by adding a word in between, like that, yeah, you can see it highlights not just the changes, or actually maybe this is also considered a change, so I don't know. But for the ls command, it looked quite confusing, so I'm not really using that too much. All right, and then finally we have the last command, which is the lsof command, which I think stands for list open files. And what this does is exactly what I just said. It shows us which files are used by certain processes. And we can do that, for example, if I say lsof in this current directory, you can see that certain commands are using this particular directory. I can also do the same thing about 1txt. In this case now, actually, why doesn't it show that I'm using 1txt? Okay, it doesn't show that here for whatever reason. But in general, if you go to the TLDR, lsof, or actually just lsof, you can see that basically lists open files and corresponding processes. Maybe you gotta have some access to it that requires some specific access mode or something. But you can also do the same thing with specific ports. You can say -i port, and you can also look at specific process IDs. So for example, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can say ps-aux grep neovim, and then I can say, but actually this shouldn't work if it doesn't work the other way. But let's try lsof and then -p, and then the process ID is 76005. Oh, there you go. You can see quite a bit here. So quite a bit of opened files here, or opened paths, you could say. Yeah, the directory is opened up, as you can see, but it doesn't really show the concrete file. Okay, but in general, this is what you can do with this tool. You can see if a file is blocked, if it's used by another process and you cannot access it. You can see which one it is here if you just say lsof and file. If you have a certain process and you don't know which files this process is accessing or which paths this process is accessing, you can just do -p, and you can do the same thing also with ports by doing -i. And of course, you have more options that you can look into using TLDR or by just looking at the man pages. This should maybe also work like this. Yeah, man pages are also available here. So yeah, these are the 10 Linux tools. Now to recap this, we had PS, which lists the processes, ps-aux to be precise, combined with grep. We had kill to kill processes. We had netstat to get the networking status. We had lshw, list hardware, to get hardware information. We had uname to get information about the kernel, about the operating system. We had lsof to get information about open files. We had service to start or stop services to get the status of services. We had watch to run the same command all the time to monitor the output. We had df to see the disk usage and the free space. And we had ifconfig or ifconfig to get information about the interfaces and to turn them on and off. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.